Hey, good morning. Greetings, everyone, or good whatever time it is for you guys. Maybe morning, maybe night. Maybe this is a nice, calm evening, and you're slipping in between the covers for a little bedtime story. Well, here I am, Glee Khan, your storyteller, on the show Lore of Warcraft. On our last episode, we played through the wetlands and continue to do the kind of a mini quest chain that you get from the Fen Warder or something like that. And he has you kill some Murlocs, and then the chain ends as you kill some of these blights, these little Fen creepers. And Millie is ready to continue that journey. She's having a good time out there. We've also been reading through War of the Scaleborn, and that's what we'll continue today with chapter 23. On the last one, we're really in a big exciting climactic part of the book. Iridikron has burrowed underneath Valdrakken, and they're bringing all of the forces of the primal dragons to bear on Valdrakken, and all of the aspects and their flights are racing back to defend their territory, and they've been fighting them. They're fighting Oxoria, one of the lieutenants. Iridikron has just taken the field. Meanwhile, in the north, Alexstrazsa is 1v1ing against Vyranoth, both verbally and physically, and things look bad. She's recently taken quite a blow, almost a death blow, and dropped into unconsciousness. So stay quiet and listen. That's hot coffee. Neltharion dived through the bevy of bronze dragons and rock furies fighting around Tyrhold, incinerating the primalists before him in an instant. He swooped through their embers and broke through the scrum, emerging in front of the Vault of the Incarnates. He halted in the air. Below, Iridikron stood on the vault's terrace, his back to Neltharion alone. It wouldn't take long for Neltharion to strike the stone-scaled unawares. A whisper rose in the back of Neltharion's mind. "You cannot defeat Iridikron without us." "Strike now," urged a second whisper. "End this war in a single stroke." The warder hesitated. Tempted. How easy would it be to call upon those dark powers again and seal Iridikron into the Vault of the Incarnates? With the stone scaled off the board, the Primalist movement would collapse. Even Vyranoth, with all her impressive strength and strategy, did not have the ability to lead them the way Iridikron could. And yet Neltharion did not trust those whispers. For all their promises, they seemed predatory, cruel. Neltharion did not intend to become their prey. Iridikron turned. "Neltharion," he said, his affect flat, almost bored. "You're always nipping at my tail, aren't you?" As he moved, large fingers of lava rose from the earth and curled around the vault. "Only because you are too much of a coward to face me and fight." Furious, the Earth Warder spread his wings wide, ossifying the massive tendrils of lava into unbreakable black rock. Would the Titan-made defenses hold against Iridikron's might? Neltharion did not wait to find out. Closing his wings, he dived at Iridikron. The stone-scaled lunged left as Neltharion slammed into the terrace. Iridikron spun, whipping the barbed end of his tail toward Neltharion's head. Neltharion ducked. Iridikron's tail whistled over his horns. "You cannot win," a whisper said. Neltharion sprang forward with a snarl, catching Iridikron off guard. "Call upon our power. Secure victory," said another, louder now. He raked his talons across Iridikron's stony hide, leaving molten wounds on the stone-scaled's flank. Iridikron roared in fury. "You will not defeat the stone-scaled." Rude. Iridikron pivoted, ramming one of his horns into Neltharion's throat with so much force he dented Neltharion's armor. The blow left the Earth Warder gasping, reeling. He stumbled away from Iridikron and tore the armor from his throat. "Not without our power." Iridikron leapt on Neltharion, snapping at the Earth Warder's exposed scales. Neltharion shrieked in fury. He pulled the stones up under their feet, using the kinetic force to shove the stone-scaled away. Iridikron went tumbling toward the door of the vault and slid to a stop with a groan. The dark power was now at the tips of Neltharion's talons again, calling to him, cajoling him, enticing him. Purple light crept across his scales. It would be so easy to end Iridikron now. It would be so easy to stop centuries of suffering and pain. All it would take was a flick of his forefoot, and this war could be over. No more dragons needed to fall. No more lands would be lost. And though Neltharion was the black aspect and Earth Warder, he was tired. He'd been fighting for hours, days, centuries, and all he wanted to do was let go and let it end. Alexstrasza's consciousness ebbed back, beckoned by Ysera's healing magic. She groaned. Every bone, muscle, and tendon in her body ached. She lay on the rocky floor of the coldest depths of the icebound eye. Weak light wafted from the skies above, leaving the pit wreathed in shadow. The scent of her own blood, the only warm thing in this forbidding place, filled her nostrils. Even the heat from Neltharion's armor ebbed. Its magic shattered. In the distance, the red dragons cried out in a chorus, able to sense the Dragon Queen's suffering from afar. Alexstrasza craned her neck, hoping to see them one last time, but the shadows at the bottom of the eye draped themselves over her, thick and impenetrable. Vyranoth's golden doppelganger landed a heartbeat before the incarnate herself, its sand scattering across the eye's frozen floor. Alexstrasza had fallen out of Nosdormu's reach. "Well fought, my old friend," the incarnate said, stepping forward, "but you have lost, and now your life is forfeit." As Vyranoth stalked toward her, the sands of time shuddered on the floor, shivering with each of the incarnate's footsteps. Alexstrasza saw a vision of her flight's futures in a flicker of gold. Valdrakken in ruins, its blessed waters polluted, the oath stones destroyed. Dragons tortured by the primalists, their wings torn from their backs, their scales plucked from their hides, their viscera ripped from their still-living bodies. Dragons bound to Eridikron's cruel will. Dragons dead in the dragon blight outside Wyrmrest's temple, their bodies left for carrion and never burned. Screams, ones Alexstrasza was certain only she could hear, echoed through the eye in a whirlwind. Alexstrasza felt her heartstrings snap in her chest. A cry escaped her lips. The sand shimmered again. Her young drakes hushed sobbing whelps in the shadows of the Jarradin. Eggs were taken from the ruby life pools and smashed, an end to her kind. In one final flash, she saw monsters marching on the world in great number, destruction on a scale she'd never seen before. All fell before their green flame. Mortal, Terrasec, primalists. This was the failure of the Aspect's legacy, their charge to protect Azeroth. "In no timeline do the flights survive without you," Nosdormu whispered in her memory. "If you risk your own life, you may risk the lives of us all." With a pained gasp, Alexstrasza pushed herself to her feet. Blood welled from her wounds. She couldn't put much weight on her right foreleg or open her left eye. The bones of her left wing were shattered, her armor cracked. "Still you fight?" Vyranoth asked, halting a few wing lengths away. "I will fight till my last breath," Alexstrasza said through gritted teeth. "I made an oath, not only to the Titans, but to my flights and to all of Azeroth. I will not fail in my duty." "And yet you cared so little about your promise to me," Vyranoth said with a snarl. "Very well, to the last breath." Vyranoth leapt at Alexstrasza, using her wings to propel her into the air. Time slowed, but Alexstrasza couldn't tell if it was a trick of Nosdormu's magic or the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Alexstrasza summoned every last ounce of love she had for her flights, letting that crimson fire give her strength. She charged forward, losing herself in the magic, letting it set her heart aflame. Just as Vyranoth was about to strike, Alexstrasza leapt into her visage, sliding across the ice. Vyranoth sailed over her, whipping the wind around her fragile mortal frame. Alexstrasza pushed herself up with her palm, mid-slide, pivoting and turning back into her true form in a blaze of ruby fire. With a roar, Alexstrasza used the last of her strength to lunge into Vyranoth's exposed back. She shocked the incarnate with flame hot enough to vaporize ice, then sank her teeth into Vyranoth's shoulder. Alexstrasza dislocated the incarnate's wing with a brutal jerk of her head. Vyranoth roared in pain, a sound that shook Alexstrasza to her very core. Growling, she dug her talons into Vyranoth's left shoulder and neck, striking an artery. Blood spurted and sizzled across the frozen heart's scales. The incarnate reared back, throwing Alexstrasza onto the ice. The lifebinder scrambled to her feet, one wing dragging, expecting a counter-assault, but one never came. Vyranoth fell to her knees, her breath still lifted her broken shoulders, but not for long. "Vyranoth," Alexstrasza said, though her voice was hoarse with grief and pain. "My oldest friend, I'm so sorry. I'm so very sorry. Vyranoth tried to sob, but it came out as a wheeze. The frozen fog dispersed. Vyranoth collapsed. Dragons landed all around them, ordered and primal alike, watching. None could interfere until the frozen heart conceded or died. Vyranothstraws and Crystal Straws were so close Alexstrazsa could smell them. All she wanted to do was collapse into her consort's side, but she could not concede the ground she stood on. Say it, Vyranoth, Alexstrazsa said, her voice edged with anguish. Concede, please. I cannot watch you die. The incarnate was silent for several heartbeats, and Alexstrazsa thought she was going to watch the frozen heart breathe her last. But then quietly Vyranoth said, I concede, Alexstrazsa. The victory belongs to you. Alexstrazza's sob echoed off the walls. All the stress and strain went out of her body. She collapsed as green and red dragons rushed to her side. Do not let Vyranoth die, she said to them. She will serve her time in the vault of the incarnates with the others, but please save her. While the reds attended the life binder, the greens breathed a sweet, gentle mist over the incarnate, putting her into a deep sleep. They worked their healing magics into her neck, staunching the flow of blood. The blues opened portals to Vakthros, preparing to transport the fallen incarnate. The blacks and bronzes formed a perimeter around their queen, keeping the primalists at bay. Vyranothstraws sat next to her, bumping her snout with his. I never doubted you, Alexstrazsa. I ever only worried for you. I know, she said, closing her eyes and breathing deep as the healing magic knitted her flesh and muscle back together. It felt wonderful, just like the warmth of the springtime sun on her scales. Much as I would like to celebrate your victory, Vyranothstraws continued, we had a messenger from Valdrakken not long ago. Ridicron launched a surprise attack on the city in your absence. As Dormu has already departed, we must return post-haste. No, that cannot be, Alexstrazsa said, trying to rise back to her feet. A shock of pain ran down her spine. She winced. Rest a moment, one of the Reds chirped. You'll be better soon, my queen, I promise. We need you to remain still. The work on your wing is delicate. Alexstrazsa wasn't sure they had any time, but she wouldn't be much good to Valdrakken if she was still too injured to fight. She acquiesced. Vyranothstraws growled, a low rumble that started in the depths of his chest. The ancient worm stepped in front of Alexstrazsa, lowering his head in a warning. 3 primal dragons approached them, flanked by a unit of black dragons. The primal dragons paused and tapped their big wing knuckles to their chest in a salute. We mean you no harm, the leader said to Vyranothstraws. We would have words with the Dragon Queen. He speaks the truth, Alexstrazsa said. I sense no ill intent. With a nod, her consort stepped aside. The primalist bowed his head to Alexstrazsa. He was an old dragon, one with hoary scales that bore scars from too many battles and horns of pure ice. He fixed his intelligent blue eyes on her. I know you, Alexstrazsa said. You are Cezanne's, wingleader of Vyranoth's Frostscales. Your legions have struck many of my dragons from the skies. What business do you have with me? With a glance at his fellow, Cezanne stepped forward. And I think Cezanne's is the one that you do on this short quest line in Dragonflight. I followed Vyranoth, not a Ridicron. Without the frozen heart to temper his hunger, I fear he will drive dragonkind to the brink of extinction for his war. Rava and Oxoria are as fanatical as he. I will not follow them into such a future. We will never accept the burden of order magic, Cezanne continued, but we will fight you no longer, Queen of the Order. If you swear to leave my kind in peace, to now honor the promise you made to Vyranoth long ago, we will help you wrest Ridicron from power. Alexstrazsa rose to her feet, muscles still trembling with pain, to find a seed of hope in such a dark place. Was this a dream? Or was this another one of the Incarnate's plots? A wing length away, Crystal Straws shifted his weight, nervous, but the flight leader said nothing. The other Reds looked at Alexstrazsa, wide-eyed and confused. I sense no deceit in you, Alexstrazsa said, cocking her head and narrowing her eyes, as if she could stare into the deepest cockles of his heart. Still, you must know why I hesitate. A Riddercron has ever preyed on the Aspect's goodwill, and this seems like yet another one of his plots. Sazans glanced over his shoulder, watching a team of dragons prepare to move Vyranoth's sleeping form through a nearby portal. The Tower of Vakthros glimmered across the portal's mirror-like face. You do not need to trust me, Sazan said, turning back to her. I do not wish to be a part of your war councils, nor do I seek to be your friend. I only seek the death of a dragon who promised so much and has given so little. Most of my brood died while a Riddercron hid in his keep. I will serve him no longer. Alexstrazsa exchanged a look with Vyranoth. The old worm made no outward sign, but she sensed an aura of skepticism from him. For centuries, the Stone Scaled had done everything in his power to undermine the Aspects in their flights. Alexstrazsa would never be able to trust anyone who had flown in his ranks, but perhaps Sazan's was right. Perhaps she didn't have to trust him to cooperate with him. You have my word, not just as Dragon Queen, but as Alexstrazsa, friend to Vyranoth, the Frozen Heart, Alexstrazsa said, her gaze flicking back to Sazan's. Help my flights defeat a Riddercron, and I will uphold the promise I made so long ago. The skies rang with screams. The stones of Valdrakken crumbled, and hungry flames devoured everything Neltharion had fought so long and hard to protect. The Stone Scaled now stood within several wing lengths of breaking everything in the Aspects had built, of shattering every victory they had won. Riddercron rose to his feet. Neltharion's scales glowed with violet light. Call on us, the whispers said. Do it now! No, Neltharion told them. Not like this. Finish him! Neltharion roared in defiance of the whispers to reject the idea that he was not capable, not powerful, not exceptional. He roared till they drowned in a cacophony of sound, until there was nothing left of their lies. When he finished, the silence stunned him. You are alone now, Riddercron said quietly. Vyranoth will strike Alexstrazsa from the skies. And what will you do once bereft of your queen? There are no more keepers to create a new aspect. Your masters are gone, and you are but a pale shadow of their power. The keepers were never our masters, Neltharion said. Is that so? Riddercron replied, his yellow eyes flashing. Did you not swear an oath to serve their whims, accepting the collar they put around your neck without question? You are a fool, Neltharion. Even after all these years, you still cannot see how they manipulate you. You know nothing of me, Neltharion hissed. Riddercron replied, baring his fangs and curling to strike. There are few who understand you as well as I do. A trumpeting echoed through the skies, interrupting the Stone Scaled. A second voice rose out in song, then a third, until the bronze's voices lifted in a chorus that echoed through the mountains around Tyrhold. What is that? Riddercron asked with a growl. A victory trumpet, Neltharion said, blinking fast, confused. Are you bronzes so dull-witted as to think you've won? The Stone Scaled asked, lifting his gaze to the heavens. His eyes widened and his stare stretched 1,000 wing lengths long. The citrine energies along his spine faltered. Neltharion pivoted, then looked up. A massive anvil-shaped cloud rose over the city, stained pink with the ferocious colors of sunset. Had the fighting gone on so long that the day too was dead? Neltharion sensed the sun hanging over the western horizon, glowering like a red eye through the smoke. No, that was not the light of sunset. Neltharion's heart swelled, his jaw dropped open. That was the crimson light of the red dragonflight's oath, undaunted, undefeated. Alexstrazsa, Neltharion whispered, almost in benediction. In the next heartbeat, the Dragon Queen burst from the clouds, her scales gleamed with ruby light. The fighting on the field ceased around them as every eye turned heavenward. A hush fell over the city. I have captured Vyranoth the Frozen Heart, Alexstrazsa roared from high in the skies, and her voice rang off the mountain tops. Rise up, Valdrakken! Rise up and drive our enemies from our home! Alexstrasza's light concentrated in her chest and burned brilliant, just like a miniature star. It exploded outward from her in a ring, rushing through Valdrakken and northern Thaldraszus. As the light washed over Neltharion, he felt himself reinvigorated, his courage refreshed. "With me!" Alexstrazsa called and dived toward the seat of the aspects. Dragons, hundreds of dragons exploded from the clouds, ordered and primal alike. "Those are frost scales," Neltharion thought with a gasp, watching Vyranoth's battalion accompany a host of reds, greens, blues, blacks, and bronzes. Neltharion did not pretend to know how Alexstrazsa had convinced Vyranoth's frost scales to follow her into battle, but he was awed nonetheless. "So Vyranoth has fallen," Eridikron said as the Dragon Queen disappeared from sight. "What tricks did you and your comrades employ against my sister, I wonder? Nosdormu was not on the battlefield at Algathar Academy, nor was he in Valdrakken. Did the bronze aspect go north with your queen?" Neltharion turned back to the stone-scaled. "Alexstrazsa did not need our help to best the frozen heart. Loath as you may be to admit it, our power is still greater than yours." "More lies." Eridikron shifted his gaze from the skies to the Earth Warder. "We both know Order magic cannot compete with that of the planet's elements. Is that why you must rely on dark forces? How long will it be before Alexstrazsa sees through your deceptions?" Neltharion took a step back, drawing his wings up and dropping his chin. Eridikron chuckled. "Do you think yourself so clever, Neltharion? Perhaps your fellow aspects cannot see you for what you are, but I can. The day belongs to you and your Dragon Queen. The next will not." With that, the stone-scaled leapt off the terrace and escaped into the ground below. Neltharion let him run, still seething as the primalists trumpeted their retreat. A whisper slithered into his ear. "Look what your weakness has wrought. Had you the foresight, you could have ended this war." "This is no victory," said a second. "You have failed." Neltharion pushed the voices from his mind, unwilling to listen to their prattle for one more moment. The day was won, and yet all he could feel was a sense of defeat. All right, so we were right in our predictions that Vyranoth would be the third to fall. He retreated, so that makes me think I could still be right in that they're going to have to get... For a second, I was worried that they were going to immediately bang get Eridikron, but now maybe I'm right about the final assault that will lead to capturing Eridikron. Because we still have 5 chapters left, so they have time to kind of set up, do a 2-part assault, and then do a sort of 2-part wind down at the end or something. I don't know. All right, so another episode is in the pipe, 5x5. That was good. It had looked dark with the cliffhanger, and now it looks bright again. We've got about 60 pages left, 5 chapters, and we're 85% done with the book. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching and for tuning in. You are all the real ones. See you next time on Lore of Warcraft.